Hi, I'm Shayna.
And I'm Tracey, and we are the creators of The Pump Dump Show. We are moms, but we were women first. And in this podcast, we explore what it's like to be a woman who also happens to be a mom.
Before we were moms, we were women. Before we were moms, we were chilling. We were pumping and dumping. We're talking about something. This is the Pumping Up Podcast.
Welcome back to the Pump Dump Podcast.
Pump It Up Podcast. Hey, breeders.
What up, breeders? Today, listen, we know that our podcast is, we've been talking about these subjects a lot, but it's sort of fascinating to us. And our MILF of the month today has a great life story, but she's super into the woo. So we're going to do another episode and we're going to talk about the woo-woo. And we want you guys to know that we have been dipping our toes, maybe even taking baths in woo.
We've dipped our chakras in the woo.
We have, and we're sort of fascinated by it. And the truth is, a lot of things that we've sort of learned about the last few months have kind of helped us get through our stressful jobs and our home life. And
Which is amazing, by the way, because our very first podcast episode was about how much we hate the term self-care. And
I still do.
Sure. And I think as a hashtag, it can be super annoying. But for the most part, we have wooed ourselves into self-care.
By the way, totally into a hashtag woo-woo. But I'm totally fine with that.
Hashtag woo-woo.
Hashtag woo-woo.
I feel like you're talking about my vagina. So if it's not your thing and you're kind of freaked out by essential oils, which, we just did an episode about, or any of the crystals and kind of stuff, maybe this particular episode is not for you, but that's what this episode's about.
Yeah. So just take a listen. And just coming from me, I never thought I'd be into the woo ever, just not my upbringing. And we talk about this more with Kristin later. So there's no one more surprised that she's reading about chakras than Tracey T. But that's the point, right? I think that there's modalities in the world that, of course, Americans are always late to the game with anything that isn't just Greco-Roman tradition. And I think that's the real fun part. Sure, we've always had yoga and these things have all been around, but as tools to...
It's not just for dirty hippies.
It's not, or witches,
right.
Or evil, demonic,
Wiccan.
Yeah, I'm not getting a pentagram tattooed on my wrist anytime
Sorry if
soon.
you have a pentagram on your wrist.
Yeah, but I understand what that means now, and it doesn't mean Satan is coming to get you. It can. But so we wanted to do an episode where we talk with a mom who is very passionate about the woo. She's actually a tarot reader and a crystal collector and I don't know, she uses crystals too. And I have a ton of crystals at my house. I have brought Shayna selenite. Look, I am guilty of all of it.
And here's another thing we're guilty of. We want to kind of tell you this little story about this woman who... A friend, Sarah O from Sarah O Jewelry, had recommended this woman who is an intuitive. Okay, so she's basically an energy healer / intuitive, which I think is similar to psychic. We actually dive into
Reiki.
this with
Is she
Kristin.
psychic?
Well,
I know she
here's
talks
what
to God.
happened. She talks to God because she died in a car accident, and then she came back to Earth because God basically told her that she wasn't ready.
She had work to do on Earth, and she talked to her former shaman and some other spirits, and they were all like, yeah, you got to go back to Earth. Your time is there. It's not done.
So I went to see her and she kept referring to God. And of course I was like, oh, by God, do you mean the universe? Just to make myself feel better. And I wasn't, it wasn't like a religious thing. And basically that's what she means by God. So
although
I'm
super happy she says God.
Sure. Absolutely. So I go to see her and she asks me questions and she's writing down very quickly, the answers to these questions. What's your husband's name? What are your children's names? What is it that I can pray for you today? And I'm like, so hopefully by pray, she means just ask the universe, same thing, same self-consciousness. And we start to talk about things that I want in the world, right? We're talking about our career. We're talking about business. And then I'm like, okay, I'll play. And I just start fucking asking for shit. I'm like, when am I going to have I'd love for our student loans to be paid off. I just start asking and I'm kind of like, I'll play. Let's do this. Then we do this super weird ritual, which now Tracey and I kind of do.
Before we go on
stage. And then she had me lay down and then she put her hands on my head. And then when I left, I was like, well, that happened. And I really can't describe it, you guys, but something
You haven't been the same
changed.
since.
I haven't been the same since. I'm convinced that Melody, something happened that day.
God happened.
God
Shayna.
happened.
Accept
And so
it.
anyway, I made Tracy go, and I got her an appointment.
I was having a rough day, and I'm talking to her about some stuff, and she's like, while she's calling.
I'm like,
and
I'm so
texting.
woke. I need to get you an appointment.
She's like, you're going to see her. You're going to see her tomorrow. When are you free? Great. She calls Melody right there. She's like, okay, you're going at 11.
Yeah.
And so I went to see her. I see this woman. This is a thing for me now. We can talk about this on another episode. But I walk in and just immediately start crying. She's just, aren't there people in your life that just are so kind? Like their energy is so good. Like
Well,
you just
she's
feel,
obviously
she's so
very
lovely.
powerful.
And so I just start bawling and I'm talking about things and she's asking me the same questions. And I kind of had a different focus. I was just sort of questioning my place in the world a little bit. And so she lays me down. She does she brushes off my head and my hands. And she's like, she blows in your hands.
There's a lot of like swish, swish, swish.
It's so weird, you guys. And
Oh, there's also a cat on my table. Can we just talk about that?
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh yeah. Say the cat really quick.
There was a cat on the table, and she's like, "You don't mind the cat, do you?" And I was like, "Oh no." So then when she had me lay on the table, she goes over, she whispered something to the cat. She lifted up the blanket. The cat went head first into the corner of the blanket, and she put the blanket down over him, had me get on the
same
table where my legs were just skewed slightly to the right
So
because
as
there
not
was a
to crush the
fucking
cat.
cat on the table with me. And I'm like, this is insane.
She's a cat whisperer.
And I'm totally into it.
Yeah. I requested no cat because I hate cats. And I'm allergic. So she lays me down. And then for me, I'd sort of pulled myself together. I think I'd stopped crying at that point. She's like, "Can I spray you with holy water?" And I was like, "Sure." So she gets out like a spray bottle.
I'm all, do you mean universe water?
So she's walking up and down the table, spraying the air around me with holy water. And then she puts her hands on my head. And when I tell you that like waves went through my head down to my toes and back to my head, it felt like a circuit of energy, truly. And it was in no way painful. It was delightful. And it felt like healing. That's the only really word I can describe it. And I did a couple things in skepticism. I kept my Uggs on. It was, it was gross outside. And I kept them on when I went on the table because I felt like I wanted something to ground me. And like, I kind of wanted to be a little uncomfortable. And at one point I kind of felt like I was floating, like the energy, it was like,
Yeah.
That feeling. And I just felt weightless and like things were lifting out of me. The worries and the sadness that I had inside of me was working its way from my feet up through like to the top of my head, which if you read about chakras, that's kind of the idea. The problem is I'm not there yet. So it all got stuck in my throat.
Right. You had this like weird feeling in your throat for like weeks.
But even with her, so no one's talking and she's just sitting there with her hands on my ears, like holding behind me. And I'm just laying there. So weird. And then we're there for a long time. And then finally I was like, oh, I can't breathe. My throat, like the muscles in my neck were tightening up. And it felt like there was just like something blocked in my throat. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, it's everything is stuck there. So then she puts her hands on my throat.
Oh, jeez.
And it helped a little bit. But it was like, it moved from my heart where the problems were. And I just am not enlightened enough, I guess, to get it out of my head. But it was a really great experience to show me that, bad energy can exist inside you. And you have to get it out.
Yeah.
And so now we're into it, guys.
That's the woo.
Yeah, that's the woo. And
I was telling my sister-in-law this story, and she was like, "Who are you? I don't even know who you are." By the way, she totally listens to this podcast, Janera. That's
Janera, we
we're
love you so
talking
much.
about you.
Yeah, no one knows who we are. But I think
What'd you just say?
no one knows who we are. I mean, in terms of like we're wearing like crystals on our wrists.
Oh,
and
I was like, what are you talking about? That's so weird. What a
no,
weird
we're
thing
going to
say.
see Melody, and
you got who we are anymore.
And then Shayna went and got her chakras cleared on her own. I didn't even tell her about it. Now she's finding people that I don't even know about.
No, I did it because I didn't want to go back to Melody. I felt like that was a really overwhelming
Yeah, she's
experience
pretty
the night
intense.
I'm going to save that for special occasions, but I was feeling kind of blocked.
Or never.
And then she did something on my lower half. And I will tell you guys that I had sex soon after that. And it was like I had someone else's vagina. And I'm not joking.
I'm sad because you said that to me and I haven't been able to get it out of my mind. And now America knows that you had someone else's vagina.
It was like not my vagina. Like it was someone else's.
But it was a good one.
Very,
apparently.
very wet.
Oh my God, Shayna.
It was bizarre. Anyway.
So our point is stay with us because Kristin is a really fascinating, lovely, beautiful woman who's a mom of an 18-month-old. She's got a great life story.
And we honestly did this interview and we could have talked to her for 4 hours. So what we've had to do is kind of come into the interview at the part where we really start talking about her as a tarot reader. But her story is quite interesting. And I just want to tell you, we met her here in Denver because she was a comedian here in Denver.
Really popular one.
Very popular. Like when I first moved here, there were articles in the Denver Post about her and why you should go see her perform. She was
so
just like
freaking funny.
Such a star, and ended up moving to LA and just really always been this very intuitive person and just felt like Los Angeles was what she called it, like a vice crushing her, and it just wasn't quite for her. Met the love of her life there.
Met the love of her life the night she showed up in Los Angeles. The first hand she shook
that's what
was
she
this
said.
guy who she ended up marrying.
And he's from Birmingham, Alabama. They ended up getting the fuck out of LA, moving to basically a farm in Birmingham, Alabama.
On
now
26 acres.
Yeah, 26 acres. She's now getting her yoga teacher training. She reads tarot. She still does comedy. She got pregnant and had a baby.
She has a boatload of crystals everywhere.
She's an amazing person, and we're very excited to share all of her woo with you today.
One side note, just bear with us. The sound isn't exactly what we wanted.
We had a saving issue.
We had an issue. We're still learning. We're getting there. Enjoy.
So were you always into the woo-woo stuff even before you were a mom, or is this kind of a new identity now that you are in this like brand new place with this brand new life?
No, I've definitely always been into it. Like always, yeah, like I had crystals back in Oklahoma before I moved to Denver even, like very into I've been doing yoga since I was 16. I don't know if yoga is really necessarily woo-woo, but I do believe that Los Angeles and Denver maybe amplified the woo-woo. LA in particular, when I was feeling so like lost out there, I think like I would go to Jessica Snow's crystal meditations. She would do crystal meditations every full moon. And like I would go to sound baths where you just lay there and like so those are all things I had never done until living on the western side of the world. The western side of the United States.
Literally the capital of woo is Los Angeles. Yeah.
Vortex of woo, like literally they're like, this is the vortex. But but I do think that being out here, Shayna, without like my tribe, my community, like I kind of had a compulsive need to like surround myself with more crystals and more tarot decks and more like kind of create my own little vortex, because it really didn't feel like the epicenter of woo here. So I kind of felt like if I surrounded myself with more, that it would amplify the energy. But really, it's the work you do. It's not the shit you surround yourself with, like, the physical stuff. So I do have, I will say at this point, an embarrassing amount of crystals that like are pretty, but the work is really just what you do with or without your crystals. So yeah, it was always something I was called to and enjoyed in my life, but I do feel like it's deepened and deepened and deepened since being out here. And leaning into the comfort and the grounding that I find in it.
So then when did you start doing readings for people?
So I started doing reading. I mean, I was doing readings for people in Denver. I wasn't charging for it because I think it's a great way to teach yourself. Like in retrospect, you're like, oh, you can read for yourself all day. It's not going to teach you how to read cards unless you read for other people. But in Los Angeles, I think that I had been doing it for several years, and I do feel like I have a great intuitive gift with the cards. And so, someone brought it up at a party once, like Kristin reads cards. And someone was like, well, how much do you charge? And I was like, I charged $25. And I just kind of became a person people were coming to get their cards read. And so it started in Los Angeles. And then I really just continued to grow the business and grow how I approach it. I definitely learned lessons like not reading. I did this thing in Los Angeles where they had me come read cards at a film event. That just gave me a table and people were just lined up. And by the end of it, I was just shaking. Like, what the fuck am I doing? I can't read 40 people's cards in a row. Like, this is not a thing I can do. So I've learned a ton of lessons in how I want to work as a reader and like what my boundaries are as a reader for money, And so I've learned a lot.
Okay, so really quick, tell us then, what is a tarot reader? What is it? What do you do? How do you do it, and why?
Okay, great question. I will tell you, I just had a long conversation with my stepmother last night about this. She's like so ignorant about tarot, but I think a lot of people think what tarot is what you see on movies or TV, where it's like a weird, witchy woman who thinks she's telling the future or predicting what's happening next or telling you who's backstabbing you
or like that your bike's in the basement of the Alamo.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I always think about.
So I do think, like Hollywood has done a disservice to tarot as a practice, but I think that whatever. I mean, it's been around for so long. It literally doesn't have a creator. It doesn't have origin stories. It is like, it has been around forever. And I think that there are, for as long as it has been around, there are as many readers and interpreters that want to do whatever they want to do with those cards. Like a book of interpretations for cards doesn't mean anything really. Like there are bare bones, but I feel like what I do is I read tarot for the soul. So I'm here, like the way I approach card reading is for you and you alone. I'm not here to tell you about your future like predict things in the future. I'm here to like dust the surface off your truth and help you remember who you are, like that you are magic and that you are light and you are capable of anything. And so it's just a form of therapy or self-care that helps remind you of your power. So that's my approach. And I've studied under people that have similar approaches so that it helps inform the way I read in ways that satisfy me. Because a huge reason I started reading was because I hated the way people would read my cards. Like in Denver, there's this little wizard at the Mercury Cafe. Don't know if you've ever been to the Wizard.
I was just there and I think I saw him. Yeah.
It's adorable, but it's not, I mean, come on, who doesn't want to get their cards read by a wizard? But and he lets you pick out a crystal from a little pouch. But like, I never had an experience where I felt seen when I got my cards read. And I feel like that's one of my biggest, I feel like it's something I really help people to feel like validated where they are. And it's okay to be exactly where you are on this path. And I think the number one thing I end up telling clients is like, you have to just trust the timing and things like having patience with how things are unfolding. That kind of ends up being the overall message half the time with people, because they want clarity now. And it's like, but right now you're just in the middle of the moon.
So what do the cards do then? Like, I mean, you just told us a bunch of delightful things without cards. So like, what do the cards do?
So the cards tell a story. With every card is like an archetype. It's kind of like it's an emotional texture. It's a landscape of where you could be. And it does happen. The reason I keep reading is because it always ends up lining up for whoever I'm reading, whatever the story I intuitively feel in these archetypes laid out together in whatever this order is. That person is like, yeah, that is what I'm going through right now. I do feel like that connects with me. So each card has, like I said, like an archetype connected to it, but they're all universal. We really all feel those at different points, and things ebb and flow. And so I think the magic of where cards come in is sometimes it feels really like, yeah, that's exactly the medicine that I needed today. That card really meets me where I am today. And I think that you have to just be open to whatever messages come through.
Tracey and I have been talking a lot about oracle cards because, we are not experienced readers in any in any
I've
sense
never
of
even had my tarots
never
read.
she's
Like,
never
I've
even had
even
hers
seen
read.
a tarot deck, I don't think.
But I think, when you can a tarot, there's so many different cards and layouts, and each one means like a different part of your life and all that stuff. But like an oracle card, if you're just a person like us, you can just like draw a card or like draw two and be like, this is your obstacle and this is your path, or something so simple like that. So really your expertise, and correct me if I'm wrong, or a tarot reader's expertise is understanding what everything means in these different like layouts. Does that make sense? Like I think people who don't know anything about tarot.
It's like knowing the alphabet and then knowing how to read. Like it's knowing, so each individual tarot card is like a letter. And then when you lay them out, yeah, it's like being able to read into the story and I totally agree that like an oracle card literally has one meaning. So when you're pulling the one meaning of an oracle card, that's it. And tarot, when you're putting a card behind it or next to it, depending on whatever spread you're doing, it does tell a different story. And so as a reader, yeah, you're kind of helping read the story that's coming through based on the spread that you're using.
But don't you think like people who want their tarot read are always interested in what their future is? I mean, do you kind of get that sense from people, or are you just always having to explain, look, this is going to tell you a lot about where you are right now and what you need from the universe?
Say that these are the future. These are all energies to consider. That's what I say for the future.
Nice.
Because we have to be mindful of the fact that like you're pulling your future into you by what you're trying to channel. Obviously, we can't control the fucking wheel of fortune, which is a card, right? We can't control the way fate and destiny and the way that things rotate go, but we can control the way that we approach it. So yeah, I think people sometimes most specifically, they want to know, when is my boyfriend coming? Where do I meet the boyfriend? Like they want to know romantic future most specifically, but I also don't necessarily do a lot of romantic reading because I'm like, your love affair is with yourself. And then you're pulling your other part, your mirror partner in. But yeah, I do think people want to know specific things about the future. And I have predicted a couple pregnancies, and I have predicted a couple things where I don't think it's prediction necessarily, but like Ace of Wands, for example. If I pull an Ace of Wands in that future spot, I'm like, this is a fertile womb, like in whatever way you want that to mean, And so I think that, yeah. And so someone who's maybe trying to conceive, they're like, okay, yeah. In the future, there's nothing but potential here for me to conceive future projects that I'm ready to nourish and protect and build on. So people can take whatever they want.
Is there a power that leads the cards that you draw? Is that the talent or the energy you bring to the reading? Is that the universe putting those cards to the top of the deck? Like, is it just
And how do you do that through a computer or a telephone? I mean, that's fascinating to, I think, all of our listeners.
That is a great question. I believe that, and especially like in readings, I ask everyone to ground themselves, and I ask that every card we pull is for the highest and best of whoever I'm reading for. So I don't know if I believe that like there's a magic in what cards. I feel like whatever, because I do shuffle and I do kind of channel, like I stop when I feel like it's time to stop. Like when there's a yes to stop, I'll stop. But I think the magic is that if I didn't feel like it worked every time, I probably would have stopped reading tarot a long time ago. Like I feel like if that didn't connect, almost every person I've read cards for, they're like, yeah, I like the magic is in the process. And I don't know if it's in exactly the order of the cards. I don't know, but I do feel like there is something kind of mystical about it, in that people really feel like that's the card I needed. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that like spirit or highest self or highest good or the universe is speaking through the cards, and there really aren't the wrong cards. Like if a card jumps out, or if a card you push against a card and you feel like I don't know, I just think they're all meant for you when you're open to it,
Well, I think the therapy comparison is interesting because it's almost like if you go see a therapist, they're essentially at some point giving you advice on how to move forward. Right?
Hopefully.
And it's very similar to what you do, but it seems like there's like a specificity to it. And you're unlike a therapist who is kind of waiting for you to, in a sense, figure it out on your own. The cards kind of are a guide for you to figure it out on your own, a more like visceral guide.
Yeah. And I know some therapists who use tarot in their practice, but that's a really good way to think of it. Like, there are certain cards that are like, we're just going real slow right now. Like, my advice to you is like, we don't have to make any big decisions this whole month. You need to just stay as grounded as you can. And some of them are like, you need to reach out. It's time for you to connect with that person you need to connect with. And some of them are like, we need to do some inner child healing. And so I have referred a couple clients to do specific kinds of therapy that feel like they came through in the cards. We're like, oh, you need rage work. Like, and also too, like, people, because I'm not a fortune teller, like, people, as much as people want to divulge about how they're connecting and where that makes sense for them, the more we're able to make actual progress in like what tools they feel like they need going forward. So like, knowing someone needed rage work was not from a specific card. It was from the work we were doing together.
And back to the question about doing it online or on a phone. I mean, I had a psychic reading years ago that a friend bought for me, and he our whole conversation was on the phone, and I kept wondering, like, how
did he do good?
Yeah. I mean, I know people who swear by him, which is
how can you feel someone's energy? How can you even?
Oh, I know. My friend said she went to she said she got a body healing over the phone. What? And that blows my mind. So what I can tell you, only as a practitioner of tarot, that I believe energy works over the phone, over the computer, in the same way where we're present together, right? And then I allow that person to pick their own stack. So I do give that person agency and letting them pick what stack they want. But that's as far as I can go, because I feel like, you know, if we were there in person, it would be similar. You know what I mean? I still let them pick their stack in person.
But it has to be a different experience face to face. I mean, there's no denying that like person to person in real life is a far different experience than like speaking to someone over the phone. No?
I really don't think so. I have continued work with my clients that I've moved away from that still call me, that still get their cards read, that still come back, that want their cards read by me, because I feel like we have established, because I feel like I'm sitting with you guys here. Like, obviously, if I was sitting together with you at that table, it would feel tangibly different, but would the conversation be different? I don't know. I don't know if the way we would be communicating would be different. And I think that, like, if whatever someone's going through the phone or in person, you know, I think that we can still get to the matter of it through technology. I feel that way because energy is there.
So do you think that there's people that are born more intuitive than others? I mean, it sounds like you think at some level everyone's intuitive if they choose to tap into it. But are there really, I mean, then that kind of talks about like psychics. And then you brought up fortune tellers. Like, are fortune tellers legit? I mean, are there people that are given, no, they're not legit? Okay.
Oh, I will say I hold fucking space for the mystery of life. I don't even know what I feel about psychics. I don't know or people that feel like they see ghosts, or people that, like, I don't have the answer. So I don't know. It does seem sometimes you're like, yeah, that person really was born with something, like a different sense. Like, we have these five and that person
see
has
auras,
seven.
They can see dead people.
Dead people.
And so
right.
I do think that people are, born with either a greater sensitivity to certain the input of certain information. And then some people, and also just the way the world is set up, the structure of the world is not built at all for anyone to learn how to listen to stillness and like listen to anything outside of go to work, get in a skyscraper, make money, like whatever it is. So, I don't have tons of answers. I don't know about fortune tellers. I don't think I would call myself a fortune teller, but yeah, you might say the umbrella of people who are tapping into a space that feels like not everyone has access to, but I do believe we all have access to intuition. That's what I would say.
So, how do you think that your experience in this woo-woo world, do you mind us saying woo-woo? Because we feel like that's what we call it, has affected you as a mom? And do you feel like, I mean, how's new motherhood been for somebody like you, somebody who, does take cues from the universe,
I wouldn't have it any other way. I really do feel like even like when I was in high school, my friend Amy was like, I can totally see the way you're going to raise your weird hippie baby. Like I can already imagine like this. And I think that in the idea of, like we were talking about, I talked about this earlier, but patience. I mean, well, there is nothing like parenting to implement the idea of like patience. So, and I'm not perfect at all. I don't know if I should say this. I pushed him down the other day because he would not. I was sitting trying to make a poster for this comedy show and I pushed him away and he fell. And I was like, because I'm just sitting here trying to make a poster. So like, I'm not perfect. I just wanted to be accountable here. But I do think that it has made me super patient and super communicative to the fact that like they're, whatever they're experiencing, like frustration or like my husband isn't as quick to understand, like when he doesn't, like this morning, my husband, like, he only wanted to eat these little veggie crisps and not his strawberries, but his stomach has kind of been upset for like 3 days. And Wes was like, you can't have another veggie crisp until you eat a strawberry. And I was like, just let him eat his veggie crisp. He's trying to communicate what he's intuitively eating right now. You need to let him
Oh, okay.
choose what he wants. I mean, if it was like a Snickers, I would have a different
Sure. But you're just like letting it in and like kind of helping, choosing your battles by feeling a little bit more at peace with the universe, which I'm into.
And I think that like, just being really sensitive to his emotional state, like where he is and what he needs to be, where he needs to be held, not physically necessarily, but sometimes hour to hour kids need different things and have different energies. And he's a challenge, and I get to like work through certain things with him. And the woo-woo has helped. I think it makes me a better mom. I think it makes me a better partner and person just in general.
So, okay. So I was raised, heavily Christian, and I totally get the woo, but I also really appreciate it from my upbringing because I think it really explains God to me a lot better than I understood through the eyes of like a foundational church.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in your standpoint on that because my initial knee jerk as, being brought up in a very Christian home is that I can't even talk to you, right? Like something's going to happen to me and I'm obviously going to go to hell. And I obviously don't believe that in any way, but that's, it's part of me. But I also feel very much closer to God because I've allowed myself to open up and I've taught, I think about my chakras in a different way because if we are really ascending to understand ourselves and get to a higher place, and Shayda hates the idea of like a specific God and is more into the universe.
Wait a second.
Well, you're just like more of like a universe person. You said it. You like when Melody said
I do not hate the idea of a specific God because that makes it sound like I'm judging people who do.
Oh, okay.
Like
Well,
I absolutely think that people can believe in whatever they need to believe in. Do I believe
makes you feel uncomfortable? It does. We talked about it.
I do not. I think any organized religion makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, even though I'm a Jew.
Okay.
I definitely believe in something bigger than us and spiritual, and some people call that God, some people call that universe. I get that's where I just want to clarify.
But you said, when you saw Melody, she said she talked to God and you wanted her to clarify that it was the universe and not God.
Well, I wanted to clarify that I wasn't a Jew going to like a religious Christian person telling me what's going on in my future. Like I wanted it to be open to all people, which isn't necessarily true when it comes to religion. So I wanted to clarify what that meant to her and so that it could mean something to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's all.
I hear you. I mean, I feel it within myself as well. Like I really do feel like the divine is within all of us. And so on people like I would easily and happily read a Christian's cards if they weren't specifically taught to fear, because I'm not claiming that I'm God. You know, I think that I'm claiming that divine can work through all of us. And so
because we were going to name this podcast Kristin Rand claims she's God.
honestly, there are
No,
definitely
we're going to name it
moments. Can I
Shayna
just
Hates
tell you-
God.
Shayna hates God.
Can I just tell you though that I really do, like I try to have a nightly ritual. Like after I put my load to bed, I come in here and I have one singular puff of marijuana. I do yoga, I listen to music, I journal, I pull cards, and I'm like, this is a religion. I invented a religion. And then the ego, that my fucking ego is like, and also I feel like I should be worshipped. There is
figured-
there is a part in my brain that says that. So you can call it that shit.
I am so in love with everything that you just said. And if we all did that after our kids went to bed, could you imagine what kind of moms we'd
He
be?
used to put it off, especially when he was younger. I'd be like, I don't have the time tonight to go do yoga in my but making the fucking time, even if you're just in here doing cat cow for 20 minutes or whatever the fuck poses you want to do.
Yeah, how long is this yoga session?
It'll last like 2 hours sometimes, but it's not vinyasa.
When do
I'm
you
not
watch
in here, like, working up a
Netflix?
sweat. I'm like communicating. I'm going, where do I feel tension? I feel it in my side body. And then I do poses I'm inventing. I don't even think they're real. I do like stretches we did in elementary school. Like I'm calling it yoga because I'm just being present with my body, but it's like the grounding energy that I get from being in here in just presence with myself, as opposed to watching a show on TV or scrolling on my phone or whatever the fuck else. It is so important. And I'm realizing even more where I'm like, I need to do this every day.
Interesting.
I've been doing more baths, you guys. That's like my step in the right direction. Like I've been doing like okay, I am going upstairs. And we talked about this a couple episodes ago, but I've gotten more since we talked about it last. I mean, I go up there and I put in Tracey's oils that she makes.
High vibe, all with high vibration essential oils, guys.
High vibration. And then I breathe. And I kind of do all these weird breathing things, like what you're saying. Like I move my body around, and I just kind of, I can't believe I'm telling you all this. And then,
This is
I like kind of when when I exhale, I like breathe out all the, I call it stale energy. I breathe it out of like all of my orifices, like just, and I just like push all the negative shit out and breathe in all the good stuff.
Love that.
And I've been doing it like way more often.
It does get
incredible,
addictive.
Shayna. Baths are the shit. I mean, baths are so good.
Yeah.
I when we come back from shows, I always take a bath. I do like a really intense face mask to like pull out the airplane, and then I get in the bath. Literally, I call it my airplane mask. I'm like, get it out of my skin, whatever. Everyone was coughing and sneezing, get it out. And then I get in the bath. And then I always read like a very specific book, like something that like is on my mind that has nothing to do with our show. And then like something that I can learn about. So it's either about my chakras or herbs or oils or whatever. And then I get out and I always do an oracle card. I can't believe we're talking about this. And then I write in my journal for a little bit. But the whole thing takes like an hour.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's very easy to be so cynical in this world, right? And I know that it seems, crystals and that whole thing is very trendy these days a little bit, and I think that initially you can be so like, oh, well, that's not me. But then if you experience any of it, even the smallest, even if it's just going to a yoga class, even if it's there's a friend of mine who's been meditating for like 4 years. And he's been making these videos just showing people how to meditate. And ultimately, I just remember one thing he said, that if you could just take 4 conscious breaths a day, it changes everything. So if you're having one of those days where you can't do shit, or your kids are, just killing you slowly, and everything else about your life is
breath is like the foundation.
Yeah.
And breath sometimes is all you can do.
Breathe out the stale shit. Just 4 long breaths.
That's
I love
interesting. Well, and so to crystals, because I love me some crystals big time. And I think it's a good gateway drug to like inner healing is how I kind of look at it. Because like, obviously, I mean, I can't say obviously because there's a large faction of people that believe the actual energy from a crystal specifically aids in a specific thing. I mean, there's people that put crystals on you. And having read a bunch about it, I'm not sure I totally get it, although I totally believe in earth energy. So like on one level, it makes sense. But what I figured out was it's just like an oracle card, or it's just like a painting, or it's just a reminder of a focus, So if rose quartz symbolizes love and softness and more beauty, and that's what that's what you're attracted to, then I feel like that's just something that it's just a reminder to focus on that a little bit more. What do you think?
I love your interpretation. I think that anything you want to make sacred can be sacred, right? Like growing up in church, I grew up in Catholic church, like here's this water is sacred. Here's this little wafer. This wafer is sacred, right? And so I think crystals have become this sacred tool. And I think crystals and tarot and oracle cards and essential oils are tools to pull us into whatever kind of self-reflection, or just pull us into mindfulness in general. And I agree, like, as far as my mother-in-law, who's born and raised in Alabama, she's like, I just don't get how they each do something different. And I'm like, girl, you don't have to.
Do you think they do? Or
I'm with her in that, like, and Jessica Snow, the girl who I would go to her meditations, and she's a crystal goddess. She knows everything about every stone, but she basically meditates with them. So she'll take celestite and we'll do a celestite meditation on like inner peace and calming. And so to me, I just think of, in the way she talks about it, she's like, the way that crystals had to form and what they witnessed and so I think about it in terms of the gifts that the universe gives us, the same way we get a fucking gorgeous, like, I'm obsessed with flowers. Like, I think and butterfly, like all of these, like, how is this just a thing that we get? And it happens in its own pace at its own time. And I really do think, for me, it's just like, they're beautiful things to have around my house. They ground me. They make me feel, a kind of way, they make me feel a kind of way. And I'm okay with it not having to be, like, for example, shungite. I don't know if you have any shungite.
I was just going to ask you about that.
Really?
Yes.
So when I was in LA, I literally carried around my mason jar with shungite as the detoxifier of my water, whatever. And now my shungite just hangs out with, like, my tourmaline and some other things. Like, I don't.
Okay, step back. Hold, please. I have no idea what shungite is.
Shungite. Oh, you mispronounced something.
I did. Shungite. Please explain.
Oh, shungite is just, it's a crystal. I'm not the crystal. I could probably get my crystal Bible out and look specifically at the definition, but it's a detoxifier and a purifier. So, like, as a stone, it really pulls in anything and any energies that you don't want, and can cleanse it purifies and cleanses. Like, a lot of black stones, like black tourmaline and obsidian, and shungite is also black. So a lot of these black stones are really just known for protection and clearing of negative energy. And like the way, like, people will use them. And I will say, I have a softball sized black tourmaline by my router.
That's what I was going to say, because the thing that I'm fascinated about with shungite is that people say that it helps in our Wi-Fi sort of radioactive world, that it absorbs a lot of the like the bad energy,
the free radicals or whatever they are. Yeah.
But I straight up put a piece of shungite next to my daughter's Alexa, because I don't love Alexa in her room, and I'm just like, I'm putting this here, and if it does help, great. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul. She loves rocks.
Creep. I think that a shungite will help. You know what I mean? Like, we can at least go on that faith journey together of hoping the shungite will help protect us from Alexa.
Or maybe just don't have Alexa, then you're definitely protected from Alexa.
This shit is crazy. This Alexa stuff is wild.
Sure.
It's creepy.
So let's talk about, do you plan on having more babies?
Yes, girl. We are. We had been actively trying since I weaned him, which was right I mean, God, is this going to sound like he was too old to wean? Hold on a second. Let me do the math. I think he was like 15 months when I weaned.
Good job.
Anyway, he weaned himself. I probably would have pretended I wanted to nurse him till he was
44.
Yeah. Going to prom. And then I was like,
Yeah.
okay. It's so funny now. He looks at my boobs and it's like he doesn't even know what they are anymore. He's
What you did for him.
He's had the Men in Black thing where he's like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Anyway, so he started crying when he was 15 months. And then I found I was pregnant on my birthday of last year.
Oh, wow.
And then I went in for my 10-week checkup. And I will say like the whole time, because 10 weeks was the first time I got into the doctor. I will say the whole time it was the mildest, simple, like there was no nausea. There was no, whatever the symptom, I can't even think of the symptoms because that's how little I felt. And so I literally was like, I don't even think there's anything in there. I'm not having my period, but I just like can't even. And I meditated one time and I talked to the baby, and this is a while ago, but the baby said, I'm whispering, mommy. And like, I felt it. I felt like, oh, this is like a very sweet, subtle little baby. And then before my doctor's office visit, I tried to like ask again, like, why are you being so quiet? Like, why don't I know you're in there? And I didn't hear anything. And we went in for that visit, and they had, did the transvaginal ultrasound, and there was this perfect little 9-week-old baby in there, and there was no heartbeat. So I think that it had just that week, the heart had stopped beating, but it had been in there forever. I mean, it had been in there growing, which blew my mind. Like, what a miracle. What a sweet baby.
Yeah.
It's so sweet
So
to me.
sorry.
So that was in January, and I had a DNC a couple days after they found out. And I guess it's what's called a missed miscarriage, because unlike where you're bleeding and you know something's wrong, your body sometimes doesn't even know. I read for like 6 weeks, your body cannot even know that something happened for like up to 6 weeks. So it's kind of miraculous that I went in very soon after it had happened. Honestly, it was so hard to find parking that day. I was like, I bet the baby gave up just in the parking lot. It was so hard to find parking. But I'm lucky that I was able to find that and to see the little baby in there. And we're recovering from the DNC, but it's really, as soon as you get your period back from that, they say you can start trying. And so we're just kind of into, I think it helped me surrender so much to the timing of how everything is. And I believe, and I know this may be a very specific individual belief, but that our children are always meant to be our children. And that this baby was like, hey, what's up? This body is like not the right body for me. I'm going to like peace out. I will see you soon. This is not going to be the one for me for whatever reason. And so I don't believe I lost a baby. I just believe it's waiting to find a body in a vessel that will be best for whatever its purpose is. And so we're just kind of trusting in the timing of everything. And honestly, I feel so much gratitude because I don't know if you've had this experience when your babies were very, very little and they're kind of like, and I'm talking about like a month or younger, when they have these weird smiles on their faces where it's like they know everything. They just came from a place where they already know everything. And then of course they're going to get older and act like babies again, but they're like these little gurus. And sometimes I'm just like, this baby, I feel like was like the timing. I had just started planting all these seeds for me as an individual, autonomous, not mom, just creative person. Okay. Had just been planting all of these seeds, like wanting to host this storytelling show, wanting to host this comedy show, getting into my yoga teacher training, taking this marketing course for my small business. And I think this baby's like, Mom, like just do you for a second. Like, let's just take care of yourself. And I feel fully permissioned now to use the creative womb energy that I would have used to grow and protect that baby, to grow and protect myself and what I'm doing right now. So if baby number 2 is in the cards, in the cards, oh my God.
Literally.
Ugh.
You're a punny tarot reader.
If it is meant for me, I absolutely know it's not going to pass by me. Like, I know that if it's meant, it will happen. And if not, another lifetime we get to meet this little gentle thing. So that's where we are. I'm kind of just trusting in the timing of everything and making sure that I really use the gift of the time and the creative energy that I got back by now not having to grow this baby, and now I get to grow something else. I really need to honor that by pouring myself into these projects that I planted the seeds for. And I think that I will be a better mother and a better I'd be a more aligned mother when the next baby comes, if I had given myself these things first. So that's where I am with baby number 2.
It's a pretty healthy, wonderful remarkable way to look at it. I mean, as of course, it seems like you've obviously processed that thing happening to you, your miscarriage. Did you mourn at all, or did you just kind of realize
girl.
this was? Yeah.
They sent me home from the DNC with like 10 Percocet, which I never even felt any pain. Like, I didn't feel from beginning to end any of it. And I took 1 Percocet every night, and I just got sadder and sadder and sadder. And like, I absolutely had times I cried, absolutely cried about my womb being hostile. Like, maybe the baby didn't trust my womb. And I have an amazing therapist that I work with over the phone, who lives in Boulder and does a lot of somatic work. So we were able to like go in and do a lot of womb healing and womb guided stuff. But absolutely, I mourned the idea of what I thought was going to happen this year.
That's exactly what it is, right? Like, I had a miscarriage when like 7 weeks or something, and it was my 7-week appointment where I found out, and it was just one of those things where it was like, you're mourning the loss of this hope, right? Like this thing that was going to happen, like
the expectation.
And it's so crazy how much you can create in your body and your brain in, a 3-week period, right? And yet now later, it's strange how it goes away, because at the time, and I know Tracey experienced this kind of loss, like just in infertility alone, you at the time, it is just so horrendous because you're emotionally fucked up from all the hormones stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just so common. I just don't think we talk about it enough, which I think is just so. I'm grateful that you're willing to talk about it, because I just remember that period of time, like, yes, being on Percocet, watching all of the Mad Men's, like my husband and I, like drug addicts, like just taking more pills and watching more TV just to like get the pain away. And, then having to throw my friends' baby showers and, just as Tracey knows how painful that is. But
yeah, totally. I think that it's the hormone thing is, I didn't even think about that in telling the story, but I know that each day getting sadder and the Percocet and it was like the hormones just crashing too, just like,
which of course we're not ever like equipped to understand, because no one ever taught this about ourselves. Right. It's like we're all learning as we go. But if someone had just been like, hey, you're going to feel this intense decrease, and here's some scientific reasoning for why you want to bury yourself under your house, you would at least be you could justify it a little bit more and feel more solid that you're not losing your mind.
Right. And you do feel like you're losing your mind because your partner doesn't necessarily understand the loss the way that you do. And then I just remember going in for my DNC and, them strapping you down, like, your arms out to your sides, like as you go in the operating room. I don't know.
She's looking at you like,
oh, well, that happened to me. They strapped my arms down.
New York.
It's New York City. They're real mean. And
I know I cannot get this vision of you out of my mind.
I guess maybe you were asleep by then, but they have to strap you during a surgery, right? So
I've never been strapped during a surgery.
You were probably strapped during a surgery. Somebody's been strapped. Okay. Anyway, I was strapped during a surgery, but I just remember thinking to myself, like, I was being punished for just wanting to bring life into the world. And it was so dramatic and so horrible at the time. And, it's just so fascinating to look back when fortunately for all of us, we have healthy children and we can look back on those times and it's now such a distant memory, but it was so real. And it's so, those feelings I just want to validate every woman who
Yeah.
feels like you said, kind of crazy about it, you know?
Well, I didn't have a miscarriage, but I obviously struggled and had months and years of just soul crushing disappointment. And it does, of course, the further away you get, especially when you're blessed with a healthy child or healthy children after the fact. But I also, I believe it becomes such a part of you. You know, I mean, it's still something you go back to. It's a feeling that you'll never forget. It's a time, it's an instance in your life that you'll never forget. And it does in some way, it certainly shape you as a mom, I think. Because I have to think you look at the children after that in a different way.
Or even the kid before that. Like I left that appointment. They're like, there's no heartbeat. And I was like, I got to get my baby from school. And I went and picked up my son and we just went on a walk and threw rocks into puddles. And then I tucked him in for his nap. And then I cried. It was this thing where it's like, I needed him. And I will say the medicine of my son, having experienced this, I can't, imagine if it was my first and that, you know, had happened. I can't imagine what the grief would be like there, because he was like a salve. He was like a balm over everything, where it's like, this is a miraculous thing. And I'm sure kids after, right, a rainbow, I'm sure kids after will feel even more, you know, there is something magical about that. I think that they can just be so healing in their presence and their existence. I do think it has been a massive, and you were kind of touching on this, Tracey, but just like an expander of compassion. Like you kind of are more able to connect with like the universal, what women are going through, in a way that you're like, you really understand it. Because I think that as often as you hear about it, having gone through it, it does transform you and hopefully not scar you, but help you be more empathic and more tender in understanding. And I will say, like in my announcement that I put up there, because I really was so happy to I thought that little picture was so cute.
I love that.
Oh, my husband, I was like, I just want to tell people because it's precious. Like this little thing is so sweet. I had so many of my friends that I had never known send me a message, say, I just had an ectopic last week. I had this last year. I had that. Like, I mean, it was people from high school, people I've known forever. And because of, for whatever reason, that stigma of not talking about anything other than just beautiful, healthy birth. I just think it's so important to keep those channels open so that women can heal together, because there's something so potent about healing individually, obviously, but healing together, there's something really powerful, especially women in groups can do so many fucking incredible things. And having women understand and want to connect on that level has been really a beautiful.
It's another club that you don't realize you're a part of, you know, until you're all of a sudden in the club.
But pain on any level and grief is hard to enunciate in the best of circumstances, you know. But a miscarriage, it's hard to talk about, but it's actually hard to talk about, you know. I mean, it's hard to explain your
what that actually felt like.
Yeah,
and it's hard for people who go, oh, you know, you'll have another one, or you know, there's always like everyone's gonna say the wrong thing, and it's just like you just don't know that how hard that is.
I agree. It's true. And that's like, maybe the conversations have to happen just so people can get the verbiage, like, so just so people can like find the way to articulate. And I think my husband is someone who lost his only sibling to a very premature death, and like the grief that he feels, I know he doesn't know how to articulate. So I think just in general, when we have these really deep, significant shifts in what our expectations are, that pregnancies work out and that our brother's going to live the same amount of time as me. Like we really have to, we have to hear more stories of grief so that we can find the language. 'Cause I think that's like so fucking crucial.
Well, because, you know, when we talk about this in a lot of things, we talk about it as mothers, when we're pregnant, people saying things to us about the way we look. You know, there's always people saying the wrong things. And from someone who went through infertility for like a bazillion years, it felt like, and have stories of so many wrong things said to me. At some point I had to realize these aren't mean people trying to make me feel bad. These are people that don't know how to say, they are coming from a place of love. They don't know how to say it. They don't know me very well, and they don't know how to say it in a way, but they're trying. And you have to like remember that part and like then shove deep, deep down inside of you the painful words that just sliced you open.
You're like, I get what you're saying is actually trying to be nice. I get it.
I'm just going to go get 44 crystals and put them all over me. I'm so
Well,
sad.
it's like, you know, in Kristen's telling of this story just now, I mean, you obviously have a beautiful perspective on a lot of things in life because of who you are as a person and because of your connectivity to the universe, etc.
Why we should worship her.
I mean, I will worship you as a religion. Absolutely.
She's like, that's cool.
Christianity. Did I solve it?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Got it. You know what's awesome is that like
Yeah,
when
I'm a
you
Christian now.
when
Oh
you
my
try
gosh.
to when you try to tell people about your new religion, they're just going to be like, "Did you mean Christianity?" And you're like, "No, I didn't. Not at
It's
all."
with a K and without a C.
That's right.
Oh.
Gotta have
Every time.
perspective.
Yep.
So, Kristen, thank you so much
Mhm.
for all of this. I mean, opening of your heart for us.
Yes.
I kind of want you to pull a card for us.
Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will you do like a pump and dump?
Is that like, can you do that on the fly like that? Can we spring it on you?
Yeah. Oh, girl. Yes, honey. I'm just trying to think of what deck I want to use.
Oh,
Ooh.
right. There's choices?
Kristen, for tarot, do you have to do all the cards or can you just do like a card?
I can do one card.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the question. Okay.
And then what do you want the card to be? Like, do you want this to be your message for the month of March coming up? Do you want this to be something that's ready to be let go of? What are you feeling as a team that you want this message to channel for you?
I think that that was her shuffling. I was like, what does that sound?
I would say like next steps.
Okay, like what we should focus on next.
What's in the future?
Yeah, tell our future.
Tell
We
our
just
future.
talked about
I guess
how
what I'm thinking of is what's in the future. But we can do that. Let's do energies to consider moving forward as a team, right? As the Pump and Dump show. All right.
do Tracy and I need to hold hands or something?
Well, we can.
We're holding hands.
We're holding hands.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Like legitimately,
I
we're like
want-
not breathing.
I
We're
want-
like, we're like,
I am
What's
laying
gonna
out
happen?
5 cards. I'm laying out 5 cards.
okay.
So as the team, is there a number that the two of you are thinking of? Like look at each other, look into each other's eyes. Is there a number you guys are feeling?
3.
I was gonna say 3. I was gonna say 3.
I knew we'd figure it out together.
3.
6 of Pentacles. Okay, so 6 of Pentacles is all about continuing to lay the groundwork of like everything you want, everything you are intending to build and grow. You have to ask permission for all of it, as far as like you cannot pull in the things you are not laying the groundwork for. So just plant seeds, do the work. This is just going to be an intense foundation of just like doing all of the work, sending all of the emails, asking for all of the specific venues or shows or whatever it is. This is Pentacles as the grounding work. This is setting up like delicious foundation. 6 of Pentacles also just a card that I deeply love, because everything truly that you set the intention into motion for that is meant for you will come to you. And it might not be immediately. I've had things that I asked for like a long ass time ago, and then I was in my Percocet depression, and then I got like an email that next day like, I got this internship that I invented for myself, and they gave it to me. So like, but they hadn't given it to me for like 4 months or something. They were so this is all about everything. Think about big picture everything. How do you create things that don't exist for yourself? Even create positions, create these things. Does this make sense, girls?
Yeah,
We're about to cry. We're like,
first of all, we're holding each other's hands so tight. that I think we're going to lose circulation any minute. But you could not be more spot on with like where we're headed. So
Yeah, and where our brains are right now.
So just feel fully permissioned to bring to yourself everything that you want and desire for this business, for this partnership. Like it is all meant for you and will all come, it will all blossom for you. So right now it's just saying like this, you don't even know sometimes that the roots are already at work. The flower's coming later, but the roots are already fucking working, and you've just got to keep putting in the messages that are going to bring everything back for you. So that's your 6 of Pentacles, ladies.
Oh my gosh.
Tracey.
unbelievably spot on. So if somebody wants to have a session with you after listening to this podcast, they can find you on Instagram.
Yes. I will say I am working. I'm building a website. I'm really working on spreading my small business to get a little bit bigger, but never so big that I can't do yoga while smoking weed in my room at night. Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I have like big, small goals for my business, but I want, right now I have my Instagram at Good Witch Mama. And then on my Instagram is the link to my online scheduler. So you can just get on me. I get on Instagram, follow me.
And we'll tag you too. We'll post you.
Crystal content, card content, vulnerability content. And then if you would like a session, just click on the link in my bio and it will take you right to the scheduler.
Kristin Rand, you know, I still remember before you were a mom, we were doing a show together and I was giving you a ride. And we walked out and you had a friend with you too. And we walked to the car and your friend goes, "How old are your kids?" to me. And you looked in my car and there were 2 like baby car seats. And you just looked and you pointed at them and you go, "That old."
Wow, I'm funny.
I had 2 under 2 and it was so fucking obvious.
That's hilarious.
Your friend had to like climb in the back. You were like, "They're that old."
Were they really that young, Shayna?
oh,
Yeah.
Were they ever that young?
They were.
Wow.
You forget that too. Forget it all.
It's amazing.
Oh my gosh. Well, keep in touch. Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
as our
you both
MILF.
for having me so much. And I'm so excited for everything in store for you guys. I hope you guys have nothing but continued success and just growth and everything for your highest and best. So thank you for having me.
Kristin, same to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are on tour.
We're on tour.
We got a tour
We're on
update.
tour.
I'm excited for our next 3 shows because I went to school in Michigan. I feel like the Midwest is very, it's a big chunk of my life. Yours
Mhm.
too. You went to school in Chicago, which is very different than Michigan.
It's a little different than Michigan.
Can't really consider it the Midwest, but we're going to Indianapolis, then Grand Rapids, then Detroit.
Yeah, it's a 3-day. And you know what's so funny is we just did a 1-day and we had to get up at 3:30 in the morning, both the night of the show and then the morning of the show and then the next morning to fly home.
So we were up for like 40 hours with a 4-hour nap. It was real fun.
And we are like super excited for this trip simply because we can like wake up in the morning at the hotel, get
And
in a
sleep
car
in.
and travel from place to place, which is, it sucks to be away from our family for that many days in a row.
Yeah.
But as for our health, it actually is just so nice to get some sleep.
And by sleeping in, we mean, 8:30 in the morning, not
Right.
But it's that these 3 a.m. wake up calls are pretty rough.
They're pretty rough.
So Indianapolis,
We're at the Egyptian Theater. Mhm.
Grand Rapids,
We're at 20
20
Monroe.
and we're returning to the Royal Oak Music Theater in Royal Oak, Detroit, Michigan.
And I will just say that I'm
Mhm.
most excited about the warm hand roll at the sushi place next door.
Little
because
Tree.
Last time we were there, this is a funny story. You went out for drinks with some of your friends from college,
Mhm.
and I was so hungry, and it was a place that didn't have food. So I was like, I'm going to head down to the sushi place. Just come when you're done. So I was just sitting alone at the bar, drinking a beer and eating the most delicious hand roll of my life for like a good, half hour.
Yeah.
And then Tracey came in and joined me. And at that point, people recognized us from the show that night because they had gone there afterwards. And all I could think of was that they just had seen me earlier and thought I was just alone drinking
Tracy's
after
like,
the show
go fuck yourself.
at the bar, just like, like there's the star of that show that I just saw, and she's just like lonely drinking a beer
her-
at the sushi
With
bar
their suitcase.
without the other, like maybe they're not even friends. Because when you walked in, people realized and were like, hey, and then they were so kind. We had some really fun conversations,
Yeah.
but it was hilarious. I was like, oh, I didn't realize these ladies were in here.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, so Little Tree in Royal Oak, we're coming for you.
Coming for your hand
Get your
roll.
hand rolls ready.
We also want to mention that we have a bunch of new merch that's going to be coming out for the tour, but it's also available online. So we have breeder t-shirts, we have motherfucker beer koozies, we have breeder beer koozies, we have breeder hats,
CDs.
more CDs.
Yeah, the book is on Amazon. But we're considering making a new t-shirt from our Band of Mothers group, which I know we keep talking about. Everyone sort of really wants a Band of Mothers t-shirt, and I've wanted one for Evs. So we're in the process of designing one. And if you have strong feelings about the shirts we have now, go on our Facebook group and give us feedback, because we're going to be getting a new supply in. And ATL Mamas, I know the line was super, super long after the show. So yes, you can go online and get our stuff too. I know a lot of people asked.
So follow our Instagram for updates on that, our Facebook page too, and join our Band of Mothers group. And we will see you soon.
Let us know if you bought any crystals.
Yeah, let us know if you're oracle carding it up. Post a pic.
Yeah.